Review.
Released in 2012, Prometheus serves as a prequel to the popular Alien franchise. In an unknown time, a spacecraft departs from the planet that eerily resembles Earth. At the top of a waterfall, a large humanoid removes his cloak and drinks a black, gooey liquid. The liquid causes his body to disintegrate as he falls into the water. Remarkably, this process leads to the formation of new strands of DNA, the human DNA itself. Fast forward to 2089, where archaeologists Elizabeth Shaw and Charlie Holloway discover a star map in Scotland. The Wayland Corporation funds a mission to a distant planet. This planet is traced through the same constellation of stars depicted in the star map found in Scotland. The crew of the spaceship Prometheus embark on the journey seeking answers about the origins of humanity. Upon landing, the film then explores themes of creation, existence, and the mysteries of the universe, all while unraveling the intricate mystery that connects it to the original Alien saga. Despite its box office performance, Prometheus remains a misunderstood gem, leaving audiences pondering the fundamental questions of our existence.
Well, when I sit on the toilet, apparently I create gems because that's how I feel about this movie.
It's a very thinky kind of movie, right? It's one of those movies that wants to seem like it's very credible and thinky, but to me comes off as kind of pompous and pedantic. So, but what do you? That's enough for me to then open it up. What do you guys, Matt? Going around the round table here. What do you guys? What are your opening impressions of this movie?
Poop. It's poopy. It's so poopy. Okay, first of all, when they were going through the landscape, and I was like, oh, that's cool, pretty landscape, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Then they got to the alien guy, and I was like, oh, cool, alien, it looks all freaky and weird and shit. And then he drinks the goop, and it goes down from there. It's just terrible. And then when we finally get to the end, we finally see the big bad creation dude guy, and all he does is beat everybody up and kill the fucking android. Which I'm glad he killed the android, because that android was creepy as fuck, and I wish they had burned him alive and watched his little plastic skin melt off or something, because he was so gross. I hated him.
Okay. This is not the first time I've seen this movie, so I understand.
Was that really ADHD?
So I understand that Matt's dealing with a lot of just like initial stimuli, right? It stands up to watching like maybe 2 or 3 times, but I wouldn't watch it more than that. It's not something that I would personally ever buy for my home collection.
Where's my cocaine?
But there are definitely things that you don't catch the first time around when you watch it, where talking about where John's talking about the whole think tank stuff. You don't catch all of that the first time around because you're so intently watching for like the next jump scare, or you're worried about like the science effects or the special effects, or you're worried about seeing, what's the big bad creature, like what's going to happen. And so you don't always catch all of the undertones in your first viewing. But with that being said, it's not something I would recommend watching over and over and over.
I would probably go along that same premise. Now I kind of recommended this movie. It's got its good points and its bad points. Now granted, there's a lot of bad points. But at the same time, there's little like hidden things in it for me that just make it like, okay, it was worth a watch. If you're sitting home alone, bored, yeah, it's a good, I've said before, there's time wasters and waste of time. This is a good waste of time. It's just, it's one of those movies that to me is just kind of like, yeah, I'll watch it because there ain't anything else on. Beyond one, maybe 2 watches, you kind of get to the point where it's like, yeah, no. So,
And my thought process of this is the premise itself, like, going back and finding the creator, you know what I mean? Because that's the overall arc, right? Like, we're going to go back and we're going to find this creation mythos, right? And itself could be a very good standalone movie premise for a sci fi action movie. One of the biggest complaints I have about this movie is the aliens were fucking tacked on so hard in this. It felt like a Ridley Scott type, like, can we get Ridley Scott on this? Yeah. All right, then let's put a couple aliens in there, and then we'll rip it off from that point onwards, right? Did this feel like a necessarily like a prequel to the Alien saga? To me, it felt like it was a very much like a moment of like discovery, faith, and all that stuff like that, like a, science and faith competing against one another type scenario, and maybe using that as a seesaw battle, or a balancing act, if you will, to kind of get to having that good leave it into the audience hands to come to their own conclusion by the end of the film. But the aliens themselves to me felt really tacked on, and that's just my opinion. I don't know what you guys think about that.
To be honest, when you were talking about creation versus, evolution or whatever, I didn't even get that. I mean, the one chick had the cross or whatever, and she was all like, "Oh, my dad gave it to me," and blah 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 blah, woody woo. But honestly, I was so detached from all of the characters, I really didn't pick up any of their stories.
And that's another point.
I just didn't give a fuck.
That's another point we'll get to.
All their sad, depressing backstory, I don't care. I don't even like you as a person, like as you're presented on screen right now, in the right now of it all in the movie. You suck. You're kind of an asshole. I don't relate to you at all. Like, get out of my face.
Let's give
the next scene with the cool stuff in it.
Let's give the viewers a precursor about this too. Matt has never seen any of the Aliens movies, period.
No.
So,
but I have seen enough, like parts of the Alien franchise, like to know the xenomorphs and to know the body horror stuff, and to know those things are going to go on. So the entire time I'm like dreading, oh god, they're going to pop out of their stomachs and be all like, bleh, and I knew that was going to happen the whole time. So I was just waiting for the other shoe to drop and for them to go, bleh, and with all the little tentacles and knee, and it was, I knew that was going to happen, but it was just like, these people are so one-dimensional. I don't care. Just kill them all and make me stop watching this filth. It was like I was bathing in like raw sewage, and the kind of raw sewage that like dries your skin out and makes you feel all chemically and gross, and you're like, ugh, I want to bleach my skin to not have to feel this way. That's this movie to me. This is like probably top 10, at least top 10 worst movies I've ever seen.
I guess what I'm trying to get to is like you're
maybe
not the
top 3.
You're not like one of the best persons to actually ask about this if you felt like the aliens was just a tacked on part of the movie, because you never really saw any of the other alien movies.
Oh no, it totally was. No, it totally was. Talking from a purely cinematic point of view, they were absolutely shoehorned in. We only saw the xenomorph one scene, and it was at the very end, and it was supposed to be like a cliffhanger thing or whatever, but it just, it so what? So what? The movie was so terrible. So what? I don't care. Just over at that point.
Becky, what do you think? What's your opinion on that?
I don't know, but I will point out that it's one of those things that you don't really catch the first time around. They actually have, when they first are towards the end of the movie, when they're walking into the ship, so to speak, there actually is a mural that actually is a mural of a xenomorph. So, like, it does get shown to you before the very end. It's very quick.
Okay.
And you have to be watching for it. And if you don't know to look for it, you're not necessarily going to catch it. It's going to be one of those things you're like, did I just...
Honestly, that kind
Well,
of makes it worse.
So my little follow-up question to your statement about that, does that feel like that is ham-fisted in there just so you can be like, oh, look, xenomorph, just so it makes it feel like there's something a little bit more attached to it? Or
when you
I feel like they should have done, I feel like they kind of wanted to, I feel like they wanted to talk about how, like, maybe not that the creators created humans, even though they explicitly say that, like, oh, well, they created us, but I'm not sure that that's really the gist of it, because they talk about that planet they're on being a military compound, and it being basically like the aliens are a biological weapon, right? Mm-hmm. So if you don't catch like those few little things where they kind of point that out, right? Like he didn't create the planet to create humans, and they created the planet to create a biological weapon, which were the aliens. But then they've, as we see in the later films, because this is a prequel, they, like many biological weapons do, get out of control.
So what? Basically, I guess the long and the short is: do you feel like it is a justifiable insertion of the franchise, or do you feel like it's kind of ham-fisted in there just to have a connection? I guess in long and short.
I think they just didn't incorporate it very well. Yes, it's kind of ham-fisted. I don't think that they incorporated it very well. It could have, you could easily have made the movie without that aspect.
What do you think, Gary?
I agree on a couple of different aspects, both with what Beck's saying and what you're saying. Was it just kind of shoehorned in, to use Matt's phrase? Yeah, it was. However, I feel like with that, that I feel that this whole movie was about the genetic process, the genetic mutation to get the aliens that we end up with in the later movies. So, and it was at the final end after it had, you know, been created with one of the creators, that's when it becomes the full-fledged alien. And the same as because, our DNA matches with their DNA, I think that's what we were bred for by them was to mate with the aliens, their whatever to create the aliens. Um, but do I feel that it was shoehorned in and used very much so to exploit it, something that was already good to pull in more movie viewers? Absolutely.
All right, that's fair. And I don't want to sit here and keep giving you guys questions or anything like that, but Matt did talk about something, and I want to address this as well. And Matt, you seem like you already have expressed your thought process on this, but and you haven't seen the original Alien franchise, so but from my perspective, there is too many superfluous characters that have no value being fleshed out because they're simply there to be killed off by proxy, has no impact of them being there to begin with to be fleshed out. That is a big gripe for me personally because it feels like those characters are only there to be killed off in a whole bunch of fucked up different varieties of ways throughout the movie, right? Alien facial. That's gotta hurt. So let's not flesh those characters out in comparison to like the first Aliens that you might not have seen, but everybody felt like their own individual character, right? They felt like they had some good personality about them. They felt unique and different. Versus this movie, I don't remember Stoner A or Stoner B or get, you know what I mean? That's what they were to me. You know what I mean? That was their roles. You know what I mean? They didn't have any like real personality. The most personality besides like Shaw or not Ian McCullen. Or otherwise known as Michael Fassbender. Because I'm so stuck on him playing as Magneto, but there's only one Magneto in my book, god damn it, and that was Ian McCullen. But yeah, so do you guys feel like the character development had... See, because in cinema, typically I think there's these things that are called setups and payoffs. And with characters, they have things that are called character arches, right? We get to know a little bit about the person. Maybe they have some sort of conflict at the middle, but then there's a resolution at the end, right? None of these characters had any of that shit to me, really, with the exception of maybe like the 2 or 3 real main characters in here. With comparison to the original Alien movies, everybody seemed to be like, they had their own discrepancies and differences that made them unique and made the whole collaboration of the movie feel more organic. But that's just my thoughts on that. What do you guys think about the overall character arcs and development of the characters?
If you pressed me to know one of their names, I would not be able to.
Fair enough. What about you, Becky? What do you think?
No, I mean none of them were very well developed at all. And the few lines of development that they tried to make were so streamlined, target oriented focus that they had like no other aspect to their personalities, right? Like the Charlize Theron character, you could tell her only mission was to get there and find that source to try to help her father, which wasn't going to do any good anyway because her whole character arc was about trying to please her father. I mean, the movie could have been fine without any of that aspect in it.
What do you think, Gary?
Oh, the whole character development all the way around, not just in personalities, but even from actions that they were performing. Things just didn't add up, you know. I just, people get critical over, hey, you're in space. Why are you taking off your helmet? I mean, dumb stuff like, why are you leaving the ship door open and haven't closed it? Yeah, I mean, just dumb stuff like that. So it's just everything about the character development from their professions in the show to any kind of interaction. Again, I agree with Matt. I've watched this movie now, 3, 4 times. If it isn't for you sitting there and going, Shaw, the main character, I couldn't tell your name because again, there was no attachment to these characters. Like you said, the
Oh, that
very
was a
first
girl.
yeah, the very first aliens though, it's like every character you mentioned the name and you had some type of an attachment to them. There is no attachment here.
And I'm going to get some heat for this comment that I'm about to throw out to you guys next. Did it feel like it was any type of surprise that Shaw was going to be the main protagonist in this movie, or did that just feel like girl power? We got another leading lady that we're going to put into the action role pants, right? Of being the most engaging character of the whole series and also the hero, if you will, of the series. Or yet again, did that just feel that it was kind of wash, rinse, repeat from what made the first sets of movies successful?
Two things I want to point out. Number one, during the film, you said tropes. You mentioned something about tropes. And two, Beck said something earlier about the planet being a military installation, right? And then you said 2012. The movie came out in 2012. And immediately at that point, I'm like, oh, that explains the girl power thing. That explains the lack of acting ability from any of the cast.
Boom!
Yeah,
I got this one question for you specifically. Did you feel surprised
okay.
that she was going to be the main character?
Yes, I did not know who was the main character.
Oh, okay. All right, all
I
right.
didn't know anybody was the main character. I didn't think there was a main character. And this person, and this person, and this person. And I was like, I don't give a fuck about any of these people. Why are these? Who am I supposed to care about?
Becky, as our leading resident lady on here, did you feel like there was any type of surprise when it came to the fact of there being a leading lady instead of a leading man that supposedly would be the action hero or the action or the protagonist or the lead hero, if you will, of the movie per se? Or did that also feel like, hey, we had a good thing going back with old Sigourney Weaver? Maybe we could just go back to that and kind of stir the pot a little bit and re-throw that in your face?
Um, I don't necessarily know that I had the feeling that it was going to be a girl just because of a girl power type thing, but I do think they were trying to rehash the success of Sigourney Weaver.
What do you think, Gar?
Understanding this.
I was rooting for the android.
Really? I hated him. He was so goddamn awful.
I mean, who's to say that he wasn't the lead character? I mean, he made it to the end, kind of, right? I mean, yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think he probably did take about as much fucking goddamn screen time as not Ian McKellen. So, I mean, I think you're kind of right.
And the acting quality, whether it was the chick or him, was just as horrible. So,
All right, now speaking of acting, and we talked about this, Gary. Here's a question. So, not Ian McKellen is supposedly playing the android in this movie, right? and not Ian McKellen, as an android, we would understand, or at least I would extrapolate that he's got to have some personality about him, right? To be personable to other people, right? Did it seem a little weird to you, or is it just me, that he would have these emotional moments that only seem to be focused at the camera, per se, for the audience's perspective? For us to have an emotional attachment to the character versus him actually acting genuine towards another human so they could actually kind of pull in what they were, his information that he was conveying, perhaps. You know what? If you kind of pick up what I feel, like, do you feel like it was just made for the camera, or?
Well, and that's somewhat, it's, yeah, no, I definitely think that it was 100% for the camera because, as far as I'm concerned, an android does not have emotions. Now, I'm the only one I can take and pull into the fray here on this one would be Data. Be factual and all that, and you can care about your human companions, but show emotion? No, that's not something.
Yeah, but that would have been a cool
You
arc,
know,
though.
but the fact that he showed it all the time and just looking at the camera by himself, walking around going, look at this.
What did you think, Becky? Did you feel that it was a little bit kind of, I'll give you two questions in a sense, because we got the first question of, like, do you feel like it was, like, just immediately just acting for the sake of the viewers from not Ian McKellen? And do you also feel that, why was he so fucking stupid? I mean, is it just me? Like, why was he so fucking stupid? You're the most scientific and analytic out of the group, I would say. So, if you can explain to me, by all means, please do, because I don't understand. Because some of the shit, like, this guy was like the main instigator of a lot of fucking problems, it seemed to me, throughout the movie. So, why was he so fucking
For no
stupid?
reason.
Well, okay. First off, I think the emotional display was actually poor direction. I think that was not at all ever intentional, to be honest. I think that was just something that happened and they got tired of doing cuts over and over. But I can't speak because I wasn't there. I do not think it was intentional, though. As far as why he was so stupid, as y'all like to say, he was not stupid. He was absolutely following his programming from the corporate structure entity that sent him there to find out what was on that planet.
True.
That was his job. His job was not to protect the crew. His job was to find out what was on that planet to see if it could help prolong the life of Guy Pearce's character.
All right, yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense, and thank you. That does track. That makes a lot of sense because it just seemed a little funny to me that he was always the one that seemed to put the people or the superfluous characters in the most danger, as it was. So it's opening the door or fucking hitting buttons or fucking
He was there to find. He was there to find what they found.
There was the oversized helmets to see the actors, right? But the first thing they do when they get inside that first cave or spaceship is they start taking off their goddamn helmets and everything like that. And then they say, it's minus 12 degrees out. It's fucking cold. Blah, 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 right? But none of the actors seem to matter or complain or anything at that moment. But later, the captain character tells them, but keep your helmets on to keep warm, to the two stoner characters. So, did that anybody? Right. Yeah, does anybody else see that kind of like as a weird oddity about the movie, or is it just me? Or what did you happen to catch that, Becky? And what's your thoughts on the big bulbous helmets when it comes to cinema?
Okay. Well, I mean, it's kind of like two different parts, right? Yes, the helmets are designed visually, obviously, so you can see their faces. That's what it's for, right? But to answer the question of like the whole taking the helmet off and the minus 12 degrees and all that stuff, they don't explain it very well, but they talk about when they're in certain areas of the ship, before you know it's a ship, it has an atmosphere. It has a contained atmosphere which would actually stipulate that there is some temperature regulation available in that atmosphere.
But it said it was minus
Later
12.
on, they leave the two get left behind, and they said the temperature was dropping because of the storm system moving in.
So I'm not like much of a fucking
it's not
scientist,
explained.
but they said minus
It
12.
wasn't explained well.
Yeah, they said minus 12 originally. Then they said it was getting colder. I don't know if
That
that's
outside?
I don't know if that's Fahrenheit or Celsius, and I'm not really the educated enough to know the difference per se. But minus 12, like Celsius, that's fucking cold. Before I pass it off to the round table for you guys to maybe go over any points that you guys might have that you wish to bring up about the movie and give everybody else a time to, have a rebuttal, I am just going to say at 48 minutes into the movie, I was a big fan of the decapitated alien head that had the fucking O face until he literally popped. That's a clip. I'm putting that fucker in here somewhere. That shit is hilarious to me. It reminded me of also, and I'm gonna have to find a fucking a source image for this, but it also reminded me when RoboCop was. Hang on.
RoboCop 2.
Yes.
The whole time I was like, it's gonna explode, it's gonna explode. Something Beck said earlier about it being a military base, and I remember that line too in the movie. I really wish they had gone that direction. They had a warship that was, or at least an armed spaceship that would fly there, and all of a sudden, they figured it out within the first 20 minutes that, this is a military installation, they're coming to kill us all, and we gotta blow them up. That would have been a much better movie. Oh my god, that would have been so much better. And then, some of the evil spidery thingies got in their bodies or whatever too.
You need to see a second one.
Too,
No, you
need to watch the other movies.
You need to see
In the
Aliens.
franchise.
Okay,
You don't have to,
fine.
but I
But yeah,
think
that
you
would have
should
been
watch
a much better movie, I think. Yeah, and then they could still have the whole body horror with the headless dude plopping blood and face and everything else. That John seems so hilariously laughing about. I don't know. I found that whole scene kind of gross. Yes. I found that whole scene kind of gross. Okay, I have my inner 12-year-old moments too.
Oh my god, it was so good, dude. If you could ask one question to us about the movie, Matt, what would it be?
Why did you make me watch that piece of crap? That's the one question.
Get that reaction.
Legitimately,
Get that
why? Damn you!
Becky, why did we make Matt watch this movie? Gary, do you have anything to?
Remember earlier I said as far as everything about the character development was horrible, and right down to their professions. Because all the things that you would think, precautions that a scientist would take, none of them were taken. So and that's all part of the character development. And that made, because of the bad character developments throughout the movie, it just made the movie feel like it was rushed just to be done. I need to get to that dollar amount I'm going to make from this movie, or else they would have, do a little bit more research and try to keep things a little bit more accurate for the people like us. We're going to sit there and pick it apart and go, yeah, that would never happen in real life.
I'm going to ask each of you individually, what was your favorite part of the movie?
Yes, the very first part where it was like flying through all the scenery and stuff, and it was all really pretty, and the mountains, and blah, blah, blah. And then when the alien, before it drank the weird goo and dissolved into nasty, gross stuff, that was cool. Then the rest of the movie was ass.
Becky, what was your favorite part of the movie?
Um, I don't know.
Oh, that's not good.
Oh.
Nothing stands out exceptionally to me in this movie as far as having like a favorite scene or a moment.
All right, Gary, how about yourself, sir? What's your favorite scene or moment of the movie?
To go with a favorite scene, favorite moment, it would probably be just from the geeky side of me when he first, plays the flute and gets the star map pop up, the three-dimensional holographic star map. That was the geeky side of me is like, oh, that's pretty cool, but that would probably be my favorite scene is just maybe not so much his wonder at it as mine was, but yeah, just the star map being pulled up.
I think my favorite part of this movie was when not Ian McKellen had the moxie to talk to the alien creature and its own dialogue just to piss it off so the alien picked it up and ripped its fucking head off. Like, how dare you, you insolent knave! That's what it made me think of, and I think that's fucking hilarious.
He even
It's
like pets him like he's a dog.
yeah, exactly.
Poor thing.
You tried. Good try.
All right, and now
Oh, wait, no.
I don't know. I think that ruined that for me, honestly.
I
Because
mean,
before then it was like, ooh, aliens. They're secret, weird, mysterious, and then it was like super crazy, violent. I don't care about you. I'm just gonna kill all you guys. Well, then why have them in the first place? So what?
well, I kind of
I'm
think
with
it.
Gary on that. All the alien stuff was really cool, but then they ruined it with the murdering of everybody. Even though they murdered the right person, they definitely murdered the right person. But it was just like now the aliens are one dimensional. Oh, we fight them. They're bad guys.
Well, he's just not Ian McKellen, brother. He's just not Ian McKellen. That's all I can say about that. Becky over there shaking her fucking. He's a credited actor. How dare you? But all right, so the last question that I have for you guys, and I first off want to say thank you so much for being here on this inaugural group think tank here of Critical Review. It was fun. I had a really good time with you guys, and I look forward to doing this next month. Here's the question, though. Would you suggest this movie? Yay or nay? If you would, why? Or if you wouldn't, why? Matt.
Yes, I would, because I want to watch other people suffer. Because you guys made me suffer, and I want to spread the suffering around. Anyway,
Becky, what
no,
about you?
I would not. No.
Oh, you
no,
wouldn't?
no.
You were okay. Okay.
I would never. No. It was.
I
horrible.
would, but I would recommend either watch all of the other Alien franchise movies first and keep a very low expectation. If you were just need something to watch, by all means. I wouldn't hype it up or anything like that, though. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, yeah, watch it.
Said in the beginning that yeah, it's a good waste of time. If you ain't got nothing better to do, it's good, just to pass the day. But outside of watching it once, is it something that I think is a repeatable movie? Not necessarily.
And my thought on this whole thing to maybe bring this all to a close is no, no, no. A million times no. I would not suggest this movie to anybody, even if they are inclusive and already hip to the idea of the Aliens franchise as itself. Reason being is it does not add anything to the mythos that I feel is very critical, because the thing that made the Aliens franchise very successful to start with was the idea of these mysterious creatures that have to run rickshaw on through the whole host of goddamn people or cast members through the movies as we've gone. So I would never ever suggest this to anybody, especially the poor people like Matt that have yet to experience the Aliens franchise for what it is. Yeah, because it's just like, bro, after watching this movie, he's like, I don't want to watch any more Alien movies. So fuck no, dude. I love Aliens, dude. Aliens is awesome. Aliens is up there with like Predator and RoboCop and all these cool, like, you know, sci-fi tropes and stuff like that, right? So I feel I would not suggest this to anybody. I would not suggest this to a casual viewer. I would not suggest this to an Aliens fan. I wouldn't suggest this to my grandma. I wouldn't suggest this to anybody. I would not screen this movie within an open fire within 5 fucking feet, because I think it is a flaming turd that'll explode and fucking combust. Because, yeah, it's just, you know, we all have our own feelings about this stuff and stuff. But for me personally, hell no, I would never suggest this to fucking any goddamn buddy. And I feel personally that I was owed $10 because I was one of those purveyors that went and spent money to go watch this bitch in the theater. So it's just like, yeah, because I was excited.
You owe me $50.
I was excited, man. I was excited to see this movie, and then I watched it, and I was just like, what the fuck did I just watch, dude? It was kind of like when people watch Inception, and you're like, I don't get it, I don't like it, it sucked. And everyone's just like, that's just because you don't have a big enough brain to appreciate the movie type bullshit. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah,
just
I want to
like,
feel superior.
yeah, wasn't it? Like, and I'm like, man, I got all kinds of inferiority complexes. I don't need a fucking movie to tell me that I'm fucking stupid, right? But like, literally, like, it was kind of.
There's no way you're stupid, but anyway.
But
I've seen your notes.
yeah, I mean, like, I try to be critical, right? Because this is the whole point of critical review, right? We got to poke the holes in the fabric of reality when it comes down to cinema.
Oh, I got him,
So,
boy. Don't get me
yeah.
started on Star Wars.
I just
Don't get me started on Star Wars.
I just want to say that I had a
all
really
over.
good fucking time with you guys. That's all that mattered to me in the long run when it comes down to it. And I had a really fun time, especially watching Becky over there just like, I like this movie. She's like, no, I wouldn't recommend it. To see her there very blasé. But any closing thoughts from you guys for about this movie? Because obviously it sounds like it's pretty unanimous. Nobody suggested this movie? Did anybody suggest it? I don't recall, but it didn't sound like it to me.
Like I said,
The most positive.
as a one-time watch, sure.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that
You
makes
know.
sense. What do you think, Becky? As a one-time watch, is it worth your time?
I think it's worth a second or third perusal, but not more than that. Because, like I said, there are things and nuances you miss the first time around.
Check Becky for hard drugs. Something's wrong.
All right, so I'm assuming that means you, Mr. Matthew, are just like 2 thumbs down.
No, this movie sucks. It should be rounded up all the copies, put it in a pile, drop a nuclear bomb on it, then piss on the fire to put it out. That's how bad it is.
And I feel like after putting you through this whole thing, Mr. Parker, we owe you some classic Alien movies,
Yes.
man. We owe you.
$5.
We owe you.
$5
We
from
owe you
everybody.
some classic Alien movies because my God, I'm just leagues and bounds of difference between the first original 3 movies and even the third one and the fourth one are kind of but even the third and the fourth one are way better than this movie, in my opinion. Are just so much better. But hey, you know what? That's why we're here today to discuss with y'all fine folks out there in the comment sections. Please tell us how wrong we are.
Yeah.
Tell us, please, by all means. Like, dude, you're a fucking idiot. You don't know the the synopsis of any of the storytelling. And the great goddamn Ridley Scott came back to direct this movie himself. So there must be something to that. But otherwise, I just want
Yeah,
to
I'm very
say,
upset about that.
yeah, I'm telling you, it leaves a bitter taste in your mouth, doesn't it? It's like, God damn it, Ridley Scott? Ridley motherfucking Scott! But yeah, with that, I would just like to say if there's anything else that you guys would like to say in the comments down below, please by all means do. Because this is where we want to provoke you a little bit to having some of your own independent and critical thinking. Because we're all individuals here, and I think that's a big thing that we have here at the Smoking GM. We are a purveyor of individuality. So please, by all means, show us that you have the moxie to stand up and have your own opinion. Anything else from you guys on our way out of this this fucking son of a fucking movie? I mean, anybody got anything else?
I want to say this is a 1 out of 10. Why? Because it is a movie, and so I will give it a 1.
Becky, that's a
Good job. Here's your trophy for participation.
What would you give it, Becky, out of 1 out of 10?
6.
Wow. All right, Gary.
Check it, Becky,
Five.
for hard drugs.
I'll go halfway, 5.
5. Gary, I would not
Also
give.
check Gary.
I would not give it necessarily a 1, but I'd throw it probably around a 3. Personally, myself, I'd probably put it probably around a 3.
Also check yourself.
Now there were some good visuals, so that's worth a point. There were some good stupid moments for me to laugh at about like just how weird and stuff like that is. So that's a point. And the fucking helmets themselves, always worth a point. So I'll put it at
You
3.
really are on the helmet.
Dude, the helmets are
You
just
really did not like those helmets.
dude, because it's a trope. It's so done. It's so done. It's so like the dishes, man. It's just
Uh.
like, have you ever seen